And welcome everyone, it's your boy Zero, and I'm here to talk about my top 5 games from 2023. But before we do that, let me get into some honorable mentions. First up, we got Spider-Man 2. Now, I wish I had more time with Spider-Man 2. I saw the gameplay last year when Sony started showing it off. It looks amazing. I love the fact that they brought in Venom. The fact that we get the Venom suit, very similar to how we did in the show back in the 90s. The gameplay is just as fantastic. The graphics are also just as amazing. I just could not get more time with the game. Next is Armored Core 6. I love mechs, I love robots, I love combat. Why not? Again, I wish I had more time with this game. It's a shame because Mash seems to really like it, and I would have loved to be able to play online with him. It's just a shame that I just couldn't. Next, we have Baldur's Gate 3. I have not touched this game. However, it has received nothing but praise everywhere you look. I play D&D. Why not? I would love to be able to play D&D with my friends. However, it is a big time commitment. And of course, having a full-time job and running a YouTube channel, that kind of makes it almost impossible. One day I will give it a chance. It just hasn't happened yet. And finally, Hi-Fi Rush. Now, this is a Microsoft game, so anybody on an Xbox or PC has already had a chance to play it. I have a Steam account. I could easily buy it anytime I want. But once again, I just could not find time. I love the idea of the game though. Music plays a big part in it. The colors and the graphics really attracted me to the game. Mash seems to really like it. A lot of other people keep saying, Zero, try this game, you're gonna love it. And I'm just like, I can't find the time. So unfortunately, I'm gonna put it here in the honorable mentions. All right, and without further ado, let's talk about my top 5 games, starting with number 5. Number 5 is going to be Crash Team Rumble. Now, fans of the channel will know that I am indeed a Crash Bandicoot fanatic. I grabbed the remakes for Crash Bandicoot 1 through 3 and Crash Team Racing. I also grabbed the Crash Bandicoot 4 game when it came out, and we even played it on the channel. You guys can watch it over here if you want. So when I heard that there was a new Crash Bandicoot multiplayer game coming out, I knew I had to get it. Crash Team Rumble is basically a goal-based collection platformer multiplayer game with 2 teams of 4. The main goal is to collect Wumpa Fruit and bring them back to your goal. Whichever team collects the most fruit by the set amount or by the end of the timer wins. It's a simple idea, but it's made more challenging when you realize that every character has certain buffs and abilities that make this goal easier or harder. For example, Crash can hold more fruit and gain more meter for certain abilities, while Dingle Dial is slower, but hits harder and makes it easier to deplete an opponent's health points. The maps for the game were well developed and play a large part in how fun the game actually is. Finding the perfect line to get from the dense spot of Wumpa Fruit to your goal is key. Gem platforms are spaces which act as capture the flag spots that can help multiply the amount of fruit dropped off at goals. And special hazards and power-ups were added to add more chaos to the fire. The game is fun as heck, and I had a great time playing with randos online. Toys for Bob has also maintained the game with regular updates, adding playable characters like Spyro and new maps and game modes. However, the game is held back by being an online-only game. It really annoys me quite a bit when I spend my hard-earned money for a game experience that is tied to how long the servers are kept up. An offline couch multiplayer option should be added because it's gonna sting quite hard when this game goes offline in a few years. Another sore spot is that I don't have many friends who would be willing to play this game, likely for the same issue. You have to play it now, and not later because the servers can go offline whenever Microsoft decides it should. All in all, it's a fun game with a couple of setbacks that hold it back from being better. That's why it gets 5th. Now, number 4 is going to be a little bit weird because I'm actually choosing DLC for number 4, and that's going to be the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Teal Mask, and the Indigo Disc. Alright, now before you guys start picking up your pitchforks and lighting some torches to come after me again, let me explain. Like I said last year, I had a lot of fun with the Pokemon game, and Game Freak actually put in quite a bit of work for these 2 DLC pieces. So let's talk about it real quick. The Teal Mask takes you to a new region called Kitakami. Unfortunately, it didn't pose much of a challenge, but the story was simple to follow, and I really enjoyed the smaller map and the new characters introduced. At the start, you meet Kieran, a timid little boy, and his hot-headed sister Carmine. They take you on a tour of their village and have some battles with you as the story progresses. The story itself actually entertained me. Learning about the village and their history made me feel like I was somewhere sort of real. The story also had a nice plot twist midway through. I also like some of the new Pokemon introduced, like Poltergeist and Sinistra. I'm a fan of matcha and green tea, so I couldn't help but like them. Diplin, which looks like a candy-dipped apple, and Ogerpon, the legendary Pokemon of the region, is adorable, and I like the type switching ability with the masks. Near the end of the story, Kieran, the boy I mentioned earlier, gets disappointed because you end up beating him in a battle and end up taking Ogerpon with you because Ogerpon didn't like Kieran as much and Kieran was a big fan of Ogerpon. It's a bittersweet ending, but all in all, this whole DLC part felt like a nice little victory lap after beating the main story. And next up is the Indigo Disc, and boy did Game Freak deliver on this one. This time we're taken back to Unova, basically New York City and New Jersey in the Pokemon universe. However, we're off the coast over the ocean and at an underwater terrarium and school called the Blueberry Academy. The terrarium itself is huge and is divided up into 4 sections, each section containing different Pokemon. This map felt well developed, and there were many little nooks and crannies to explore. Game Freaked up the difficulty this time around because every trainer battle is now a double battle, and the Elite Four are students from the school who use Pokemon to cover for each other's weaknesses in the double battles. I'm telling you, these were some of the toughest matches I've ever fought in a Pokemon game, and I think the next mainline Pokemon game should emulate this style of battling. I got a bigger sense of accomplishment beating the Indigo Disc than I had in most Pokemon games to date. After beating the Elite Four students, you have the final match battle with Kieran? That's right, something snapped within Kieran, and he has become a ruthless Pokemon trainer. All in the hopes that he may beat stronger trainers, especially you. But we all know how that song and dance goes. One mind-breaking event after this battle, and Kieran is back to his old self. The only gripe I have is that the mission for the legendary Pokemon for this DLC, Terapagos, felt tacked on at the end. Not only that, but the game still suffers from graphical glitches and slowdown. You'd think Game Freak would have done something to address that. Those minor gripes don't really hinder your experience, but it does hold the game back for me a little. Game Freak did a great job creating some amazing expansions for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I hope they take this as a learning opportunity and apply it to the next few games. That's why Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the DLC packs, get forth. Alright, now we're on number 3. And the number 3 spot goes to Knuckle Sandwich. Alright, now some of you probably don't know what Knuckle Sandwich is. It's actually a fun, independent RPG game that we actually talked about before on this channel. So fans of the channel may remember actually that way back in 2020 we interviewed an indie game developer called Andrew Brophy. He was showing an RPG called Knuckle Sandwich, and I thought it looked great. When I saw the game back then, I was instantly drawn in. The graphics reminded me of Earthbound. The battle system had micro games built into them, sort of like WarioWare. And the in-game dialogue was quirky and entertaining. I knew this was a game I had to get when it was released. Thankfully, Andrew was able to complete the game in late 2023, and I grabbed the game when I had a chance. Boy, did he outdo himself. This game isn't just quirky, it's weird. In a good way though. As to not spoil much, you basically play as a no-name guy, which you do get to name though, and you have to try to get a job. You end up at a rundown diner, and literal chaos ensues. You meet some vampire guy who's trying to help you out, but then he glitches the entire world. You end up using little goblins as special summon attacks. You end up teaming up with a couple of other weird people who end up being pretty friendly, but also weird. And then you run into a team of weirdos with special powers, and they're also trying to gather parts for a machine. And it's also unclear as to what it is the machine does and what their motives are. It's just entertaining and fun. I especially like it when you end up in the glitchy world. It just looks crazy, all messed up and whatnot. It's a real fun experience. And the microgame battle system actually made me want to get into more battles, unlike other RPGs. I had fun from start to finish. And my only complaint is that the game is kinda short. You'll likely be able to beat this game within a weekend if you really grind it out. I recommend this game to any RPG fans that don't mind a little bit of weirdness and that also like some microgame action in their battle system. It's a really fun game and I recommend it, and that's why it gets third. Okay, now we're on to number 2. And this game should really be no surprise to anyone because number 2 goes to Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Fans of the channel will already know that we are fans of Jet Set Radio here on TooStupidGamerz. Heck, we even played through Jet Set Radio on the channel, and once again you can watch it in the eye up here. So when I heard that there was a Jet Set Radio spiritual successor being developed by a well-respected independent developer, I was all in. I had already experienced a game by Team Reptile before called Lethal League Blaze. Once again, we already played it on the channel. You can watch it here. It's sort of a 2D volleyball battle game with characters who look like they could easily fit in the Jet Set Radio universe. It also had some amazing music to go along with it. So learning that this was the team behind Bomb Rush Cyberfunk had me ecstatic. It took them a while, but the wait was worth it. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk starts you off as Pharaoh, a writer, which in this universe is what they call graffiti artists. He's in prison. You later learn that Pharaoh is actually one of the best writers to ever exist while trying to escape prison with the help of Trice, a fan of Pharaoh and a fellow writer. But just as you make it out of prison, bam, Pharaoh is beheaded. Trice gives Pharaoh's beheaded body a cybernetic head and renames him Red. And your mission now is to figure out why Pharaoh was beheaded. Red isn't doing this alone though. Trice and his crew has his back. And they want to help you out while also going all city. It's this universe's version of being the best gang or team of the city, having control of all the territories, putting your graffiti everywhere, and also showing off some various tricks on your wheels. Oh wait, let me talk about the wheels that you actually use in this game, because Team Reptile added skateboards and bikes along with the skates. This gives everyone more customization based on their playstyle, and I'm all for it. They also gave each accessory the ability to boost, which helps keep the game fast and exciting. There's no paint meter. The meter is used for boosting. Graffiti paint is always on hand, which I think is a welcome change, because it helps you keep up and encourages collecting cans for more meter to reach those hard to reach spots for your graffiti painting. About painting, they have a similar system to Jet Set Radio, however, instead of simple curved motions, you are tasked with zigzagging specific codes in order to get the design you want. More zigzag codes are unlocked as you find them within the levels, which gives you even more incentive to explore. And you know me, I love exploring. The gameplay is already good enough. And you also get a decent selection of characters as you play through the game. The graphics of this game are fantastic. They use cel-shaded graphics just like they did in Jet Set Radio, and it really engrossed me. It really made me feel like I was playing an elevated version of Jet Set Radio. The story actually played a major part in the game and kept me engrossed from start to finish. My only actual gripe with this game is the fact that it was, once again, very short, and there weren't actually many side quests to play through. Making a game ain't easy, and in all honesty, the game isn't held back by any of this. It's just really fun. I recommend grabbing this game if you're a fan of Jet Set Radio or just like the style of this game. It's why it gets number 2. And finally, we're at number 1. Drum roll, please. The best game from 2023 for me, and my number 1 pick is going to be Street Fighter 6. This should really be no surprise to anyone because I've been singing the praises of Street Fighter 6 ever since I was invited to the beta back in late 2022. Having a taste of this game during the beta had me addicted to it, and I just wanted more. Capcom really put their all into this game. They took their time with it, and they really wanted to make sure that it worked well, unlike Street Fighter V. The new overdrive system was genius and adds all of those inventive abilities from previous Street Fighter games all into one easy to use mechanic. Parries are easy to pull off. Alpha counters make a comeback. Focus attacks make a return, and not only that, they're improved and they were renamed to Drive Impacts. And also a new skill was added called Drive Dash, which helps you combo better, and it also helps you get up close and personal to your opponent. All of these skills work well together, and I can't be happier with the way they handled their implementation. Each fighter now has 3 different supers depending on the input. It goes from level 1 to 3. Each one stronger than the last. The level 3 super, by the way, actually has an alternative ending if you use it while you're at low health, which makes for an even hyper moment during gameplay. The graphics are beautiful. I believe they used the RE engine from RE7, and I'm glad they did because everyone looks fantastic, especially Chun-Li and Cammy. God damn! They did my boy Ken quite well here, reinventing him and making him work like a familiar but new character. This is my favorite version of him to date, with all the new moves and abilities he was given. Everyone was upgraded actually. Everyone was retooled and given new abilities along with their new mechanics. There wasn't a part of Street Fighter 6 that Capcom didn't retool or touch up. They even added a new, easier way to play Street Fighter 6 using modern controls, something that can make new fans of a technical game like Street Fighter 6. They also went with a hip-hop style for the game, which I appreciate. It brings me back to Street Fighter 3. Capcom also added a new open-world story mode to Street Fighter 6, which I appreciated, but I was a little bit disappointed by it. You're forced to use modern controls when playing story mode, which is fine, but the story itself wasn't very compelling, and the overworld gameplay left me wanting something more. It's still a nice little distraction, even if it's brief. I hope they use this as a jumping off point for bigger, better story modes in Street Fighter for later. Online has also been retooled with a new lobby called the Battle Hub. It allows you to interact with others in an online setting with a self-created avatar. And it reminds me of PlayStation Home. You can speak to others through text, dance or emote with them, or simply challenge them to a fight with your avatar, or you can head to one of the arcade machines and fight them with Street Fighter characters instead. A very nice touch in my opinion. New fighting modes are added, like Tug of War and Extreme Battle. The Battle Hub is also consistently updated with legacy arcade machines, which allows you to play older Street Fighter games from time to time, and I love it. I like it when a company acknowledges their older games and gives you a chance to play it again. So much love and attention was jammed into Street Fighter 6, and you can feel it and you can see it while playing it. Capcom has really brought fighting games to new heights with Street Fighter 6, and it's the reason why it gets number 1. And that does it for my list, everyone. I hope you liked it. Please make sure to smash that like button, mash the subscribe button, and let me know down in the comments below, do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? Do you think it was stupid? Have you played any of these games? Let me know what you think. Also, stay tuned for more awesome content because it's coming up. I'll see you next time.